A lot, and yet so very little has happened since the last time I posted. I'm more confused and paranoid than ever. I feel like I'm taking 10 steps back for every step I take forward. The situation is slowly devolving into a veritable mess, and I'm thoroughly entangled in the web of deceit that I admittedly contributed to creating. But I'm getting a bit ahead of myself, so I'll pick up from where I left off. I ended up calling Marcus first, and he answered almost right away. "Hello. This is Detective Marcus. How may I help you?" "Hey, it's me, Clancy." "Oh, hey Clancy. How's it going? Did you make up your mind?" I peeked inside the house before I answered, but I couldn't see Sarah. She was in the kitchen, and by the sounds of pots being overturned, I figured she was raiding the cupboards for something to eat. Sarah came back. I whispered into the phone. "What?" Marcus let out. "How? When?" "Just now." I answered, "But I think it's the mimic. There's something off about her." Okay. Marcus said and took a deep breath. "Stay calm. I'm here for you." "Is she there right now? Are you keeping tabs on her?" "She's in the kitchen. I'm outside on the porch." "Good. Don't lose sight of her." "Does anyone else know that she's back?" "Did you call your parents?" "Not yet." I answered. "I panic called you for help." "Okay. You made the right decision," Marcus reassured me. "I knew I was onto something with you." "What do I do now? Do I go in there and—" "No," Marcus yelped. "Don't do anything brash. Okay, don't confront her until you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that it's the mimic. I'm a few hundred miles away on another case, so the fastest I can make it there is a few days from now." I wasn't planning to. "Don't worry, I'm not stupid. Just keep tabs on her. If anything comes up, and I mean anything, let me know. I'll rely on you to keep me informed." "Can I do that?" "Of course," I answered. "You're a good kid," Clancy, Marcus said, almost making me laugh. "I'm 20, for crying out loud. You have a good head on your shoulders, so I trust your judgment. If the situation gets dicey, or you feel you're in danger, don't hesitate to run away." "Will do. I'll try to wrap up this case as fast as possible. Hold out until then. Try to keep her isolated if you can. It'll be less of a headache to clean up everything if she ends up being the mimic." "That's gonna be pretty hard," I admitted. "She already asked to talk to Dad. You'll figure something out." "I'm sure of it." "Got to go now, but we'll keep in touch." "Okay, talk to you later. I'll think up some bullshit and see where to go from there." I ended the call and peeked inside the house again. The rustling had stopped. "Sarah," I called out hesitantly. "I didn't disappear again." "Don't worry," she answered with a chuckle. "I'm brewing some coffee. Do you want a cup?" "Sure." "Did Dad answer?" He I fumbled for words. "No, he left for the Grand Canyon." I just remembered. Said he needed some time away, so he didn't take his phone with him. "Oh, well, in that case, come in." I wasn't sure if she believed me or not. She likely had her doubts, but until she'd confront me about them, I decided to take my small victory. "Be right over," I answered. I was thankful for the short reprieve, but I still needed to do something. So instead of trying to call Dad and risk exposing my lie, I shot him a text. "Hey Dad, the detective called. He wants to examine the house again, so he said you should steer clear of it for a few days. Gonna call you tomorrow. Good night." Dad texted me back almost right away. "Okay. Want me to come over in the morning and pick you up?" "No, I'll be staying here to help him out." "Okay, talk to you tomorrow then. Good night." "Good night. Love you guys." With that, I stashed my phone away and made my way to the kitchen. Sarah was by the stove, boiling a pot of water. I observed her for a few moments, but I couldn't see anything out of the ordinary about her. "Do I have something on?" she mumbled when she noticed me staring, pulling at her shirt to check on it. No. It's just, I'm glad you're okay. That's all." She gave me a soft smile and turned to dump a pack of coffee grounds into the pot. I couldn't remember her ever being this cheery and warm, especially towards me. But then again, her change of attitude could be explained by what she'd been through, so I filed it under potential red flags, but decided to hold my judgment for the time being. "How much sugar?" she asked after she poured us a cup each. 2 cubes is enough." She dropped 2 cubes into the murky liquid, handed me the cup, and sat at the table opposite of me. We sipped the bitter insomnia for a few minutes, both unsure of where to take the conversation. When it became apparent that she wouldn't talk, I took charge of the situation and did so myself. "So, long and crazy story?" I asked. "Yeah, tell me about it. I'm all ears." "Okay, so the gist of it is that I kinda went stir crazy. Not sure why, but I did. I Though I started hearing voices calling out to me. Thought the house is haunted, and I ran off. I took in what she said, hanging on every word. Sarah hid a lot from me in that confession. And I wasn't sure what to believe or do. Should I confront her, bring up the recordings, the creature in the basement that she tried to burn alive? That sounds rough, I said instead, deciding to play along. My hope was that, if she didn't know I was onto her, she wouldn't try to harm me or run away again. I could only speculate about the mimic's goals. But if it wanted to take over Sarah's life and masquerade as her, I needed to keep the illusion intact for as long as possible. The potential mind reading it might have been capable of threw a wrench in that plan, though. So the only thing I could do about it was to pray she wouldn't try it. Yeah, she agreed. The last few months were a little well, completely shit, to be honest, but I'm doing better now. And I'll start looking for a therapist soon. Sounds like a plan to me. We took a few more sips from our cups. But something seemed to bother her. She stared into her coffee intently, her brows furrowing as if she debated internally over something. You said that you buried me. That you thought I was dead. What's that all about? Did you declare me missing or something? Was it an empty casket? Another thing I needed to lie about. And possibly another attempt at deceit on her part. I made note of it as I thought of an answer, filing it away with the rest of the evidence that was building up. No. Someone burned alive in your basement. Some neighbors called the firefighters. They put it out, and we thought it was you. So the authorities declared you dead and we buried the body. Fuck me, she lamented. That's going to be hard to explain and overturn. Who burned, though? I prodded, trying to see if she'd confess to anything. I don't know. Some squatter maybe. I don't want to badmouth my neighbors, but one of them might have broken in if they noticed I was gone. We have to call the cops tomorrow and let them know. We'll see. It might be a better idea to hold off on that for a few days, I said absent-mindedly. What? Why? She burst out. If they think I'm dead, we should let them know as soon as possible. I needed to think of something fast, and her haste gave me an idea. Yeah, you're right, I answered. I'm just tired and thinking stupid shit out loud. Don't mind me. I have the number of the detective that handled the case. We call him right now if you want. Sarah eyed me with distrust for a moment, but it faded as quickly as it appeared. She reached out a hand over the table, wiggling her fingers. Dial him and give me the phone, she demanded. I did as she asked, pulling out the phone and dialing Marcus's number. She snatched it out of my hands after I put it on speaker, and I was hoping he'd catch on and play along. It rang a few times before he answered. Hey, Clancy. What's up? He asked. Did anything? It's not Clancy. It's ... It's Sarah. Marcus dropped the phone, and we heard the clattering as it hit the ground. He let out a few quiet curses as he picked it back up. Sorry, Miss Sarah. You really took me by surprise, he said, feigning shock quite well. I am Detective Marcus. I was tasked with investigating your ... death. I know, Detective. Clancy told me about you. That's why I wanted to call you right away and let you know I'm alive. Those are amazing news, Marcus said. I'm glad to hear you are fine and it's all been a misunderstanding. Thank you. So how do I go about reverting the whole mess? Where do I need to go? Who do I need to call? Sarah asked. Well, Miss Sarah, it's a convoluted process made no simpler by the fact that a body was found in your house. I'm away on another case for a few days, but I suggest you wait until I return. Don't contact the authorities until we consult a lawyer. They might flip the case into manslaughter and pin you as a primary suspect. Sarah looked up from the phone and shot me a confused glare. Marcus had more or less told her the same thing I had. I wanted to sigh of relief at his quick thinking, but I abstained. She couldn't suspect that we were working together. Okay, thank you, Detective. I'll be waiting for your return, she said in a defeated tone. No problem, Marcus replied. Stay inside for a few days. Don't travel, and try to put together a statement of what happened. We need as many details as possible to make your case. Will do. Marcus bid us goodnight and ended the call. Sarah tossed me my phone back, placed her half-empty mug on the table, and moved to get up. Where to? I asked. I'm going to bed. I'm drained. Where's my phone, by the way? I don't know. It probably got lost in the shuffle when me and Dad cleared out the house. I lied. The fact that she asked for it unnerved me. However, it made me suspect that she wanted to cover the tracks and delete the recordings, so I couldn't let her know that Marcus had it. Bummer. I wanted to watch a show or something, she lamented. Anyways, I'll be going. Feel free to join me whenever. No worries. I'll sleep on the couch. Suit yourself, she said with a chuckle and left the kitchen. I waited for a few minutes, listening to her enter her bedroom and changing. Her reactions up to that point didn't seem abnormal by any means. They were all perfectly reasonable. But I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was out of place. That sensation, coupled with the fact that she'd lied to my face, made me suspect that she had more to hide. That was a close call. I texted Marcus, "You alone right now?" "Yeah, she went to bed." "Okay, you have to figure out if she's a mimic or not before I return. We'll have to make our move." "I'll try." It was nearing 10 in the evening by that point, but I didn't feel tired enough to sleep yet. So instead, I went online and did some research. I found a lot of stuff about a slew of creatures that sort of fit the profile of what I was facing. But none of it lined up perfectly. I couldn't rely on those reports, so I decided to share my own story in hopes of finding out more. Maybe people with similar accounts would come crawling out of the woodwork if I spurred them on. I turned off the lights, sat back down in the chair, and typed away on my phone. The night progressed as I did my best to capture my experiences in writing. And soon enough I was absorbed by the recounting. Usually I'm not a speedy writer. I take longer than average even on short texts. But my curiosity and need for answers fueled me like never before. I was almost done when I felt a hand coming down on my shoulder. "What are you writing there?" Sarah asked from behind. I fumbled with the phone, nearly dropping it. She gave me a good scare, and I could feel the adrenaline coursing through my veins as my pulse rose. Sarah squeezed my shoulder tighter as she laughed at my clumsiness, and I quickly backed out of the app. I faked a sigh, as if she caught me red-handed with something embarrassing. "I'm sexting with someone." "Well," Sarah answered, "keep it in your pants in my house. Will you?" She went around the table and sat down, not bothering to turn on the lights. That left the room in almost complete darkness, with only faint rays casting in from the street lamps outside. I could make out the contour of her body, but any sort of details were obscured. "What are you doing up so late?" "I thought you went to sleep." She picked up the coffee mug and took a loud sip. Her eyes had an almost surreal glow to them, and I felt them boring into me in a way completely different from before. There was malice behind them as she measured me up. "Nightmares," she answered, setting down the mug and rubbing her eyes. "Couldn't sleep anymore, so I got up." "What about you?" "Couldn't sleep either." I tried to meet her gaze with my own, to confirm what I'd seen and felt, but she averted eye contact. That made my paranoia levels rise as my whole body tensed. But I tried to keep calm. We had some more small talk about this or that. Nothing of substance, and I could feel her eyes on me again whenever I looked away. It drove me up the wall to feel that calculated coldness, like I was facing an ambush predator thirsty for my blood. "Can I bum a cig?" she asked. I threw her the pack and the lighter, and she pulled out a cigarette. The small flame illuminated her face as she lit it up, and her skin looked deathly pale when she passed the pack back to me. I smoked one as well to calm my nerves. No more words were exchanged. We just sat there in each other's smoke, exchanging quick glances. I checked my phone, finding it was nearly 4 a.m. by that point, something that the buzzing between my thoughts confirmed. It was getting late and I was too tired to think straight, but I couldn't risk going to sleep either. Not when I was unsure about Sarah's intentions. For all I knew, that was exactly what she waited for. She finished the first cigarette, then asked for another one, and another one, chain smoking half of my pack in about an hour. I pulled out my phone, checking the post in a last desperate attempt to focus and stay awake. "Did she answer?" Sarah asked when the blue light hit my eyes. "Who?" "The girl you were sexting," she said with a snort. "Or the guy. I don't discriminate." She ... She blew me off. I mumbled. "Oof." Sarah chuckled dryly. "Bad luck with the ladies." "Yeah," I kept lying. "I can set you up with one of my friends, if you want." "A girl named Amy. She's an absolute sweetheart, but she struggles with dating too. She can be a bit awkward at times." The mention of that name made me perk up. I know that Marcus said to keep Sarah isolated from everyone, but Amy had also heard the recordings and she could have been useful to me in this endeavor. She knew Sarah better than me, so if I could convince her, if I could get her on board, she had a better chance of recognizing the mimic. "Sure thing," I answered, letting a bit of my enthusiasm slip through. "Okay, I'll call her over tomorrow." She got up, walked over to me, and grabbed my arm. "Now go get some shut-eye. You can't be looking like a zombie. She has some standards." "Tomorrow," I protested. I wanted to meet Amy as soon as possible. "Sure." But Sarah's haste surprised me. "Yeah, tomorrow. No offense, but you're kinda boring and I could use her company." Ouch. Offense 100% taken, I answered with a timid laugh. "But it's okay. I get it. I'm not exactly Mr. Exciting in the flesh. I got up and went over to the couch, with Sarah on my heels the entire way. She had brought out a pillow and blanket for me before she found me awake and writing in the kitchen, which was a sweet gesture, but the effect it had on me was quite the opposite, serving to fuel my paranoia even further. The back and forth between her words and actions. Her being kind one moment and cold the next. It felt like a deliberate attempt to confuse me. Was she playing some sort of mind games? Was she even aware of doing it? Was I losing it and seeing signs where there were none? It's probably the last one, I decided as I unfurled the blanket and made myself comfortable on the couch. I'm tired and I'm not thinking straight. I'll try to get some more sleep too. Good night, Sarah said before she headed for her room. Good night. When her door closed, I pulled out my phone and set an unlock password just in case. Then I set it to record audio and left it on the cracked table as I drifted off. Sleep came fast, and it was a deep, dreamless blip that seemed to go by instantly. I woke up only a few hours later, to the light of the morning sun reflecting off the table into my closed eyes. Sarah was already up and about, preparing breakfast in the kitchen, judging by the sounds and smells reaching me. Morning, I mumbled as I entered. Up already? Sarah asked, turning away from a sizzling frying pan to face me. You barely got any sleep. I'm fine, don't worry. I took a seat at the table, and she served me eggs and bacon. As I ate, she took my phone and called Amy to invite her over for lunch. Amy accepted right away, so they ended the call after a bit more small talk that I couldn't focus on. You didn't mention me, I jabbed as she handed me the phone back. I thought this was supposed to be a date. Sarah smirked. All in due time, she said. You can ask her out yourself if you two hit it off. And by the way, can you go out for groceries before she comes? You didn't exactly keep the fridge stocked. We barely have anything. I grunted, but she wasn't wrong. Besides some beer and the eggs and bacon that we ate, the thing was barren. So I got ready to run an errand to the closest shop while she cleaned up. And hurry up, you'll have to take a shower too. I left the house post haste, plugging in my earphones and starting the recording from last night. It was only my light snoring for the most part, so I put it on fast forward. Nothing in it jumped out to me. No skittering or talking, so I paused it when I reached the store. It's a small family-owned business, so besides the old lady manning the register and myself, there were a few other souls in sight. I got my stuff, had some small talk with her while I paid, and I was off again. By the time I made it back home, I was about halfway into the recording with nothing to show for it. Maybe I'm just losing my mind. A stray thought shot through my head. I mean, monster hunters and mimics and all that. I put the groceries away and went to take that shower. The water was scalding, but I pushed my body under it and allowed it to melt my worries away. I'd solve the case and everything would be fine and dandy. No doubt about it. If Marcus trusted me, if he saw something in me, I couldn't sell myself short. Amy arrived sooner than I expected, right as I was drying off and getting dressed. I came into the living room to find her and Sarah at the table. Amy, this is Clancy, my younger brother. Clancy, this is Amy, my best friend. Sarah did the introductions. Nice to meet you, Amy said, getting up to shake my hand. She was a few years my senior, but she was cute, I'll admit. Definitely out of my league though, so I can't imagine how Sarah thought she'd date me. Same, I answered. I'll go make us coffee and some snacks, Sarah said. Be right back. As she passed me, she elbowed me in the ribs and winked. I let out a chuckle and sat down opposite of Amy. Suo, she mumbled when Sarah was gone. Yeah. Sarah was right. We were like two fish out of water. Two very awkward fish that didn't know how to get a conversation going, which were bad news for me. After all, I couldn't steer a non-existent conversation into the desired direction, so I needed to do something about it. Dating be damned. I needed Amy's help first and foremost. Did Sarah tell you about what's been going on in her life lately? I asked, getting straight to the point. A bit blunt on my part, I know, but we had little time until she returned. Amy raised an eyebrow at my directness. She said she's having some mental problems. Yeah, Amy answered. But she showed you the recordings, right? At that, Amy frowned. Did she show them to you as well? No, a detective did, I answered. A detective? She asked, her words filled with confusion. Yeah, look, what I'm about to say will sound crazy, but listen until the end. We might need your help. Go ahead, Amy said and waved a hand through the air. Okay. So Sarah made those recordings because she heard a voice in the basement? Right. Look, Amy interrupted me despite what I asked of her. That was Sarah. It wasn't some monster or ghost. She made those voices herself. But I caught her in the act. Okay, Amy insisted. And the look in her eyes turned sharp. She came over to my place for help when she couldn't take it anymore. And I heard her myself. She sleepwalked and talked in different voices, having conversations back and forth with herself. It's not some monster. Your sister had a mental breakdown and made up the whole thing. We found a dead body in the basement, I retorted, which shook Amy. I could see as much by how her expression changed. Sarah didn't show you all of the recordings. She made 17 in total. In the last one, she set fire to whatever was in the basement. She what? Amy whispered aggressively. Yeah, we found the body and we thought it was her. I continued. We buried it. She's legally dead and 6 feet under. The look in Amy's eyes turned into pure terror. She glared past me at the kitchen, where Sarah merrily went about preparing us lunch. She didn't tell me about that. What the hell? Did she kill someone? Not someone. I pressed on. Something. Me and the detective believe it was a monster, a mimic of sorts, and it might have taken Sarah's place. Stop with that bullshit already. It wasn't a monster, Amy insisted. Worst case scenario. Your sister committed murder. The door was locked at all times. There's no other way in or out of the basement. Police officers checked it twice and didn't find anyone. And Sarah locked the door as soon as they were out. How the hell did someone get in there? You weren't there to see it, were you? Amy questioned. All you have to go by are the recordings. And Sarah is mentally unstable, unless you saw it with your own eyes. How do you know that she latched the locks? That she didn't lie on the recording? Fuck me. I thought, that's a good point. Well, I mumbled. The wind in my sails good is gone. Coffee's done. What are you two mumbling about? Sarah asked from the kitchen. Nothing, Amy answered. Sounds like quite the intense nothing. Sarah quipped, can you come over and give me a hand before you two jump on each other? Amy got up, but she stopped next to me and placed a hand on my arm. Drop it about the recordings. Okay, we'll talk more later when Sarah's not around, but don't mention them around her. It took me 2 weeks to calm her down. There's no monster. Your sister is sick and needs professional help. I didn't say anything else, realizing that it would be in vain. Amy seemed like she'd already made up her mind on the matter, so she wouldn't be of much help. I was back to square one, more or less, but what little information she did share could have been useful. I just needed to figure out how it fit into the bigger picture and the theories that were developing. Did Sarah talk in different voices at Amy's place because she was the mimic? Or was she truly having mental problems? But even if that was the case, it couldn't explain how she reproduced Dad's voice, or my own, so flawlessly. No, the mimic was real, that much I knew for sure. I'd heard the recordings with my own ears. The only question I needed to answer was if it was dead or not. And all of the mounting evidence pointed towards not. The two returned from the kitchen with coffee and the promised snacks, and Sarah looked at me with a wide grin. Amy, in the meantime, gave me the best stink eye I've received to date. Sarah started telling her of the few shared memories we had, but I could see that neither one of us focused on the story she spun. I'll go out to have a smoke, I interrupted Sarah. You can smoke indoors. It's fine, she reassured me. Nah, I need some fresh air anyways. Sarah protested some more, but I got up and headed for the back porch. It was farther away, so they wouldn't hear or see me there. I lit up a cigarette as soon as I was out and retrieved my phone, intending to call Marcus and update him. But I paused when I saw last night's recording still on the screen. Something about it wasn't right. I slept for about 4 hours at most, but the recording was only 2 hours long. The phone was on the table, so I couldn't have turned it off by accident in my sleep, and I forgot to turn it off when I woke up. Cliché as it will sound, I felt the blood in my veins freeze as I skipped through it until I reached the end. A door opened in the background, and footsteps slowly approached the microphone. They circled the room a few times, stopping near me as I still snored softly in the background. Nothing happened for a few minutes. Then the phone was picked up off the table, presumably by Sarah. Her breathing was audible for a few moments, and the recording stopped abruptly. I peeked inside, feeling the terror and paranoia in me mounting. But I couldn't see the two of them. I only heard them talking and laughing. Marcus needed to know about this, and I needed guidance on how to proceed, but he wouldn't pick up. So I opened the texting app and navigated to our conversation. Yet to my utter stupefaction, I found it blank.